Hey there, friends. This is Xochitl with Sociology, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you today for another episode of Sociology, as we're going to cover another really cool topic. But before I continue, if you guys can please do me a quick little favor and hit that little subscribe button in the corner, I would really appreciate it. I hope everyone had an amazing week. I certainly did, and now I'm really excited to be here with all of you again today. So, I wanted to share with all of you the topic for today, which is generational expectations. When I think of generational expectations, the first thing that comes to my mind, like immediately, is my parents, right? Um, First, they're from a different generation. And second, they have a lot of expectations, right? So you can mold this to whichever way you feel applies to you. Maybe it was a teacher or a mentor that this applies to, but our biggest influence is our parents. So that's the reason why I'm referencing my parents on this. So, it could be like an auntie or an uncle or something like that. But when I think of this, the world generational expectations, I think of the things that they imposed on us and that they wanted of us and assumed were going to happen because they implemented certain things for us or on us, I should say. So when I think about some of the things that they expected of us, and some of the rules or the you have to do this or you better do that or you need to do this, it was all based on their generational views, right? So over time, things do continue to carry over from generation to generation to generation, a lot of core values, right? But some things, like as I said earlier, they might be seen dated or old fashioned. So is it fair? Is it a fair assessment to call them old fashioned or dated? In a sense, it is, because our generation is different, right? And our expectations are different. The world's expectations are different. And a lot of our parents, at least mine were, they were like in survival mode all the time. They didn't see past their limitations, I guess you could say. Um, so therefore, whatever they felt was best and whatever they felt was going to make us better or help us thrive in this world or in this country, they had to set certain expectations for us to be successful. And they don't have the perfect mold. They don't have the perfect recipe to implement on us. Therefore, they're going based on what they know and what they were taught and their expectations. So it's not really a fair assessment in a sense, but it does feel good to say, you know what, my parents are dated, they're old fashioned. But then even right now, when we think about it, we look at things from the past and say, you know what, that's kind of old school, because old school is kind of old fashioned in a sense, right? But it was like in a cool way to reference it. That's old school. And what do we like right now? We like things that are old school because a lot of things come back full circle, right? So as far as some of the things that my parents per se, uh, some of the expectations they had were, you can't dress like that. Where are you going wearing that? Like, we don't wear that. Your mannerism, your sense of ethics, your morals. Lord forbid you get out of that little square, that little comfort zone, that little circle, because all of a sudden you're being disrespectful. You don't speak to your elders that way. You're not going to be successful if you don't do things this way. And another thing is our parents worked a lot harder than we do. They worked a lot harder for a longer time to sadly, in some situations, achieve less. At least this is not like a general statement. This is my personal experience, I guess. So, yeah, my parents were in survival mode coming into this country because the way of life is different here, So, they imposed those things on us, and we were looked down at them like, wait a minute, we don't have to do things that way and work that hard. We thought we feel like we know better because we're more advanced, right? When technically a lot of those core values and generational expectations are pretty legit. Even to this day, they're pretty legit. And they'll, if we continue to live off those generational expectations, I mean, we'd be doing pretty well, I think, because their expectations were high, you know. Um, you have to succeed in school. You have to get a good job. You have to act like a lady. You have to dress a certain way, and honestly, it's just creating boundaries. It's creating some sort of boundaries. And with those boundaries come expectations, because once you live a certain way and you do things according to what their expectations or they're assuming of you to do, you're going to be successful. I think a lot of it, we have, at least for me, there comes a lot of resistance, because we don't want to listen. We want to be rebellious, and we feel like their way of looking at things is old fashioned, like I said, or so dated. Where do we find common ground between two generations and their expectations? Well, I think it's definitely something that can be achieved. Somebody might have to swallow their pride more than another. I don't know. A level of understanding, kind of talking it out. Because let's say your parents, their expectation of you is to become a lawyer, to be married by the time you're 30. Hey, I want some grandkids. And here is Sochi, like, hey, I'm a makeup artist. I've never been married and I don't want any kids. You know what I mean? So where do you find that common ground where you still respect each other and your expectations don't become a nuisance? Because they can be. And mind you, our parents, they only want the best for us, and they're only setting these expectations for you because they want the best for you. But here we are, like I said earlier, we think we know better because we're more advanced and the world is evolving. And here we are like, hey, I know better, but sometimes we don't, So I think if you're in that situation, which I have been in, try to talk it out. I definitely would have done things different, because me, I was like, you know what, I'm out. I left and I pieced out, and I was like, I'm just going to do my thing and just kind of float through life, right? And figure it out. Although generational expectations are imposed on us, at the end of the day, we have to fulfill what is our calling and what is going to make us happy. We have one life to live. Every day we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and be happy and content with some of the choices we have made, whether it's to move to another state, to move to another country, to get married or to have kids, or to choose a certain type of a career, a certain lifestyle. At the end of the day, we have to answer to ourselves, the choices that we made and that are going to help us fulfill these expectations that we have of ourselves. So maybe we're not going to make everybody happy. It's impossible to make everybody happy. But at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for us. So yeah, I think that's my conclusion with this, do things in a respectful way. Like I said, have a conversation as opposed to being abrupt and just taken off like I did. But definitely that makes a difference, when you find, that's the common ground, to sit down and have a conversation as an adult, like, hey, this is kind of where I'm at. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what I want to do with my life, or this is what I don't want to do, and just talk it out. But at the end of the day, you gotta do you. You gotta do what's best for you, and also be respectful of how you approach it, because we never want to hurt anyone. They're only doing the very best that they can with what it is they know. I'd love to circle back to this topic and expand on it a little bit more, So, and I also want to get your perspective on this. What is your experience with your parents, or maybe a mentor, or somebody that was very influential in your life? I would definitely want to get your perspective on it. So please leave me some comments below on what your thoughts are on this topic. And also, if you have any questions for me, and also what you think of my perspective, I'd love to hear from you. So please stay tuned, as we are going to continue having some really cool topics on this channel. And I don't want you to miss out. So stay tuned. And I want to thank you also for spending time with me and watching this episode of Sociology. And I will talk to you all soon. Have an amazing night. Take care. Bye bye.